Welcome to the painting channel. Today's video we're covering the AAT battle tank for Star Wars Legion. It's a larger base vehicle, and so I figured it would be cool to do a breakdown of a process with speed and doing some fun technical painting details. As you can see, it has a certain color scheme because I'm basically complementing another piece it's a commission piece. So client requested these colors. He had one painted previously that was the black and white uh, version of this, and I'm basically just doing my own black and red model. So it's inspired by the durd tank from Rebels. So if you guys haven't, or just if you look up durd, there's a card for Legion. So I figured we would do something that's a little bit more his like theme and the style for the card and the miniature itself. If you pay attention, this was kind of basic. I just primered it black, taped off the pieces that needed to be red, and I went wall to wall with a lot of the colors. Make sure everything's blocked in with enough coats for it to be bright, and keeping in mind that in the end I'm going to weather it. I'm going to get a little more. That's where I kind of had some freedom to just, instead of leaving it bright red and just basic semi-gloss black, I wanted to go ahead and give it dull down the color with a wash and start using like a chipping technique for the edges. The brushes I'm using is the Monument size 4, 2, 1, and a 0, which at times that's just to get like the smaller details that need to be, whether it's like the red or black. But we are trying to paint this with time as far as kind of a speed paint, and but still making it look good, right? It's not a display piece. This is going to be handled. It's a tabletop model, so I just want to, make it look nice and give it the details to balance it so that when you stare at it, it looks like it just pops on the battlefield. And the chipping I'm using I'm using a dry brush from the Army Painter. That series is one of my only name brand brushes that I use for dry brushing. But recently I've just been switching to makeup brushes, and I cut the front of it to shape it, keeping that round tip that I need, but making with not sacrificing precision, because the dry brush could get pretty, if you're not careful, you're gonna get places you don't want to touch with paint. So I still keep it fairly round. As you can see, I've already done a lot of the vibrant layers of whether it's the red or black. I'm moving on to the silvers, and with that I'm using gunmetal color from, I think that's also the Army Painter's gunmetal. I like the way it layers really easy. That's what I'm also going to use for the chipping. It's going to be battle damaged. It's going to be, like it's been gone through a few like debris, things like that. The oil, there's a video I have out for the downed X-Wing terrain piece that if you go and check it out on the channel, you can see the live process. That was a live stream. If you see that, there's a point where I apply a lot of the oil wash, which is thinned down with an airbrush, because you're able to really, I think you could regulate it, and you can also kind of manage how much oil you want to cover in an area. So right now it looks clean, nice and red, very vibrant, but I'm going to bring that tone down, stain it, and give it a whole different look. The belly of the tank, there are some pieces that you can kind of see whether it's on just flat on the table, so I do want to cover those parts. But you can see the very bottom of it, it's not cleaned up yet. I'm just kind of focusing on like the very surface things for it. Once I do get to the oil wash, which it's basically like a Nolan oil, but I do my own with the Winsor Newton oils. I just thin it down so that I'm able to control how much I want to cover. But I like the gradients, how evenly coat it does for the coverage. This is the dry brushing now, and like I said, it's the Army Painter brush, but I could have done this with a makeup brush. Depending on the sizes, I could have maybe covered more ground a little quicker, but it wasn't bad because I still don't want to get too crazy with it. The fun part when you have that freedom is the chipping. Like making little parts from the edges, and I'm doing it like an edge highlight, right? So instead of edge highlighting a miniature, I'm doing that with this gunmetal, very just building it up. The detail parts that I do work on to give it that kind of noticeable small detail is, you know, as if the tank was moving, there's smoke or there's debris. That's when I start, you'll see right now, I start balancing the effect of like the where it would like shoot, there's like a smoke, like the impact or like a recoil. And you'll see this is what I start doing with the dry brush also. The parts on the gun that I feel like need to also have a little bit of that silver or the gunmetal, I will just pick and choose a few pieces. I don't want too many colors to be next to each other where it just kind of clashes. I do want to have some sort of separation because I don't want it to look too simple, right? So I want to just start breaking things apart. What I feel like needs to be black from the reference picture that I used. If you can imagine, this tank where the red is all white. So I just did this exact same thing. But you know, it's one of those things where you kind of apply those techniques you have for smaller stuff and then use it for the larger scale with larger brushes, just to show you this was done fairly quick. The longest thing, as you can see now, the oil is dry over the top part, and this is what took the longest, like the wait time was to let that dry. And I just used it in, if you're gonna zenithal highlight, I'm spraying it now with oil wash so that it kind of hits those areas that have that natural, like the wind resistance or whatever the case may be. So this is the part where I'm doing it's like with the neutral gray, I'm just kind of very lightly building up the value of the to give it that smoke effect, because it is on black, but I don't want it to be piercing gray or almost like a white. So that's the part where I'm starting to do the trail, like the smoke. This, I'm going to use this as my reference for the other side so that I kind of have that kind of a symmetry going on, so I can keep it all the same value. If at one point I think I went a little, it was just a little too bright because it is dry brushing, so you kind of have to kind of maneuver the value of how much you're using. Plus it's a contour side, so you want to, it's easy for your brush to kind of go off, so you have to like really try to hit surface. But on the other side, I felt like one of the areas was getting a little too bright, and while I had pigment on the brush, I went on to the next side of the little hole, like a smokestack, right? So if I started going greater in value from the gray for that one area, I would go to the next and the last. Then I would switch quickly to the other panel that I finished to brighten that up also, so that it doesn't look too off. And that's what I'm doing now. It's kind of just going back and forth, balancing the front end. This is one of the main things that I just wanted to add, that little bit of flavor, right? I didn't want to get every little piece of metal or whatever the case may be. I wanted to go ahead and just subtle details. From here, I'm just going to go into the chipping, which is all the like very edges of the paneling, and with back to the dry brush. Just doing, that's when you kind of have fun with it. You can go crazy with it, or you can just do subtle stipple chips. So it'd be like stippling your chip texture on there. Turning the brush sometimes is cool. It'll leave like a certain pattern, like splatter, or the paint actually gets, like if it was more of a natural debris impactor, whatever the case may be. If you go back, referencing to that video of the down to X-Wing, I do like a mud effect with that piece, and same thing, I kind of just thought the more organic, natural look of what it would look from like a crash site. So this would be, where's the front end, that's going to be more of the parts that should be chipped, in my opinion. So this isn't like, you know, a lot of this stuff has been done before, right? So this is just the way I do it, and the process or steps that I take. Real basic colors. I had a wash, red, black, gray, and a neutral gray. Or sorry, the gunmetal and neutral gray. And with that, I was able to complete the whole piece. And the more, obviously, the more paint you're going to put on the miniature, the nicer it's going to look. But this was crunch time kind of thing. If you got a game going on soon, you need to put those three coats of paint on there just to hit, like, whether it's like a tournament standard, this is one of those situations. There's a few other vehicles I'm working on that I'm gonna have videos out for, so make sure you guys like and subscribe to be up to date with a lot of those notifications. On the Instagram, which is paint and ink underscore miniatures, you can see a lot of the other stuff I've already done. Like I did it's kind of like the for Star Wars Legion, it's the bus, right? It's like the Rebel bus. I did a mall version of it, and you can see the way it's basically to carry Mandalorians, the Super Commandos, Supermandos. They're on that build, and you can see what I did. A lot of this technique applied to that, and again, it didn't take me long to do it, so it was a pretty cool process. It's always fun to do the larger stuff because you can, whether it's terrain or the bigger base models. This is the part where I get the edges and I'm just, stippling a lot of that detail. Kind of where I think a lot of that wear and tear will be, whether it's taking fire, in the direction it's going, usage over time, things like that. So I'll take that in consideration and I'll start this process. There's a model that's going to go inside of for like the hull, so I just kind of leave that area up to the client, however they want to do the rest of that model, but I have it ready so that you just insert it in there. So this is the fun part where you just get to just go crazy with the weathering, or you just keep it very subtle. I like the battle damage look on tanks, so I want it to look, it's funny because the beginning of the video, if you guys go back, it starts off really bright, and now the brightness is, you can see I applied the wash to this also, and it gave it that smoky look, and that's kind of what I was going for. So I was actually quite happy with the turnout, the way it dried up. It has a lot of bits that you have to be careful with though, especially if it's going to be handled, like the antenna, things like that. On the bus that I had, that antenna broke, so I just took it off entirely. I think it looks cool without. But you can also trim these down so it's not such a high antenna. Especially in and out cases. If it gets bumped on accident, the antenna will break. I mean, it happens. So this is one of those parts where I'm thinking about the piece. I keep referencing to the image that I was given. Also to the image of the box. The movie tanks, the way they are kind of like built already. So I reference back and forth between all that. And as you can see, it looks pretty heavily thrashed, but I mean, it works, right? And I'll go ahead and clip it together and you guys will see the way it looks, like the final result. So thanks for hanging out. This is the breakdown of kind of a bigger scale model and kind of just process that I take to do a piece like that. I think it turned out awesome. I'll do a little varnish over it just to protect it a little better. There it is though. There's the AAT tank. Go ahead and check out the channel, twitch.tv/paint and ink. You got the YouTube /paint and ink. Also Instagram. So there's the tank. Let me know what you guys think. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Keep you guys updated on the next one. Thanks for hanging out. Later on.